Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayādvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayādvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Ashtottara Satashi Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sekaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mayi Ki Jai Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, everyone, and welcome to Sri Caitanya-caritamrta class with His Holiness Jayādvaita Swami. And we are reading tonight in Adi Leela, chapter 7, starting where we left off, which is in the purport to text number 114. And today is Thursday, January 18th, 2024 in New York. And a special welcome to all of our guests tonight from Vishakhapatnam. Hare Krishna, and thank you for being here.
I should just add for the Vishakhapatnam gang, Vishakhapatnam devotees, and our format is that we'll read, and as we go along, if you have comments or questions, then those who are in the room can raise their hands, or those who are online can raise their hands, and feel free to comment or ask questions. Do we have Telugu translation? No, we don't have Telugu translation. Sorry about that. Should have thought about it. No, I don't think we'll have to arrange Telugu translation at this point. I think would be difficult. So this evening we'll have Telugu translation. All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 I'm not, whoever's not muted, please mute yourself. I'm not going to lead off reading. We've been sharing the readings, but I will make a comment at the beginning. The Prabhupada will be quoting from, in this purport, from a Mayavadi scholar, Sadananda Yogendra. And when I was editing this section, it seemed very confusing to me. And I sent a message, I guess it was, perhaps through Kuranda in Los Angeles. Anyway, I sent a message that Srila Prabhupada, I'm editing this section, but this is what I've done, but it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. So I don't know if I've edited it correctly. And Prabhupada said, yes, it doesn't make sense. Your editing is correct. Okay, so let us continue.
Jai Maharaj, thank you so much. So I will read text 114 and then ask if Panchatattva Prabhu can pick up where we left off in the reading, which is in the purport in the paragraph starting with the most prominent Mayavadi scholar, Sadananda Yogendra. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking this verse in response to the Mayavadi sannyasis of Benares, and he's going to set them all straight on what the Vedanta Sutra is and what it means. So he says here, this is the verse, Tanra dosha nahi teno agya karidasa arajeshu netara haya sarvanasha. Shankaracharya, who is an incarnation of Lord Shiva, is faultless because he is a servant carrying out the orders of the Lord. But those who follow his Mayavadi philosophy are doomed. They will lose all their advancement in spiritual knowledge. And if Panchatattva Prabhu is there, you can start right in with that that paragraph you mentioned.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The most prominent Mayavadi scholar, Sadananda Yogindra, has written a book called Vedanta Sar, in which he expounds the philosophy of Shankaracharya. And all the followers of Shankara's philosophy attribute great importance to his statements. In this Vedanta Sar, Sadananda Yogindra defines Brahman as Satchidananda, combined with knowledge and without duality. And he defines ignorance, Jada, as knowledge distinct from that of Sat and Asat. This is almost inconceivable, but it is a product of the three material qualities. Thus, he considers anything other than pure knowledge to be material. The center of ignorance is considered to be sometimes all-pervading and sometimes individual. Thus, according to his opinion, both the all-pervading Vishnu and the individual living entities are products of ignorance. In simple language, it is the opinion of Sadananda Yogindra that since everything is nirakar, or formless, the conception of Vishnu and the conception of the individual soul are both products of ignorance. He also explains that the Vishuddha Sattva conception of the Vaishnavas is nothing but pradhan, or the chief principle of creation. He maintains that when all-pervading knowledge is contaminated by the Vishuddha Sattva, which consists of a transformation of the quality of goodness, there arises the conception of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the omnipotent, omniscient, supreme ruler, the Supersoul, the cause of all causes, the Supreme Ishvara, etc. According to Sadananda Yogindra, because Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, is the reservoir of all ignorance, he may be called Sarvagya, or omniscient, but one who denies the existence of the omnipotent Supreme Personality of Godhead is more than Ishvara, or the Lord. His conclusion, therefore, is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ishvara, is a transformation of material ignorance, and that the living entity, Jiva, is covered by ignorance. Thus, he describes both collective and individual existence in darkness. According to Mayavadi philosophers, the Vaishnava conception of the Lord as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and of the Jiva, or individual soul, as his eternal servant, is a manifestation of ignorance. If we accept the judgment of Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, however, the Mayavadis are to be considered Mayaya Purita Gyan, or bereft of all knowledge, because they do not recognize the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or they claim that his existence is a product of the material conception, Maya. These are characteristics of asuras, or demons. Should I stop there, Akendra Prabhu?
Let me see. Yeah, I mean that's a lot of a lot of material you've covered right there, and I could certainly understand why Maharaj, when he was first going over it, had difficulty with it, because I certainly have difficulty with it.
It's like when you read it, you're taken aback at how they take everything and just turn transcendental knowledge on its head. It's like the most, oh, Hare Krishna. And it's so offensive. It's so wildly offensive to the Supreme Personality of God. It's quite amazing. It's hard to even repeat it. The points that Sadananda Yogindra has made. I think If we're to categorize it in any way, I could just say that the mission of Lord Shiva through Sankaracharya has been very thoroughly and well conducted, because this is such a complete reversal of the actual Vedic Siddhanta that it's just extraordinary. I think I would like to hear from Guru Maharaj on this. Huh?
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Mayavadi Krishna Aparadhi. Mayavadis are offensive. And as Panchatattva says, it's breathtaking how brash, how offensive they are. In material politics, they say, if you're going to tell a lie, tell a big lie. So here that's what we find. It's not just a small adjustment, but it's breathtaking that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the total manifestation of all ignorance. To be saying that is so, what's the word? Cheeky. It's so brash. It's so, there is a word, apart from outrageous. Anyway, there are a lot of words. Audacious. It's so audacious to be saying such a thing. The living entities are just products of ignorance. The Lord is a product of ignorance. Only Mayavadi philosophy isn't a product of ignorance. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's statement is entirely justified. Mayavadi Krishna Aparadhi, simply offending the personality of God. If I say to you, we have such wonderful prayers from devotees. The Mayavadi prayers, my dear Lord, you're nothing but ignorance. It's a collective manifestation of all ignorance. What kind of prayer is that? Krishna Aparadhi. All right. Something else? Others?
Saraswati Mata has a comment here. Pranams, she says, sometimes the Mayavadi's language is said to be flowery, but it sounds so foul and makes us cringe and angry at such offensive philosophy. Makes no sense because it's nonsense. Yet it appears to find an audience somewhere.
Basically among atheists, it's a Mayavad is a fancy form of atheism. Really, there's no God, and the God that you think that exists is just ignorance personified. All that exists is an impersonal something or other, which is essentially godless.
And Priyanka Mataji says in the chat, how can there be joy in such a philosophy? Without joy, how can anyone continue the path?
The joy is joy in being offensive. If we see this, the atheists and take pleasure, like Shishupal, in bad-mouthing the Lord, blaspheming the Lord. That's their pleasure. We see this. The Communist Party here in India, when the atheists get going, Kerala and other such places, their business is to speak sarcastically about God, to about God, just you ignorant fools are following some sort of, so that's their pleasure, to Vajanati Mamuta, to criticize, deride Krishna for just being a human being, or appearing like a human being, or being mythological, or this or that. And this is their pleasure. And to show off their greatness as scholars, or as skeptics, or as great mystics. But Krishna says they're great offenders.
Oh, Panchatattva Prabhu says, I know it's speculative, but it must have felt like a thankless task for Lord Shiva to promulgate this philosophy at this particular time. He is, after all, the greatest Vaishnava.
And that's how Prabhupada presents it. A thankless task. It's not Lord Shiva's fault. He was ordered. It's acting under orders. You teach this Mayavad philosophy. Mayavada was such Shastra. Against the Shastra.
And taking this very fancy way of covering up the actual Vedic conclusions, it seems very similar to what's being done today in contemporary science and academics. Nothing, since the absolute truth is so covered, it's an impetus for just more and more sense gratification. So people become more and more degraded as a result of following this philosophy.
To deride the personality of God. This is called envy. What is that? Prabhakshabhyanasuyave. I'm speaking to you because you're not envious. Someone would say, not envious. What's the big thing with envy here? But just see the extent to which envy goes, that Shishupal was envious because Krishna married Rukmini. And the materialists and scientists and others, they're envious. And envious and sour grapes. If I can't be the controller, then there is no controller. Asatyama pratishtam te jagadavur anisha. They'll try to be the controller and fail. And it does that. There's no controller. It's the jackal in the grapes, or in America it's the fox in the grapes. Anyway, these grapes are sour. Everything is false. Since we can't enjoy it and control it, it must be false. And if we can't do it, no one can do it. So there's no God, there's only ignorance. Envy. And therefore, what joy will they have? The joy of an envious person, but what kind of joy is that? Taking pleasure in envy, taking pleasure in, what is the word? Criticism. These are signs of the mode of ignorance. What is that in Bhagavad Gita? Naiskritiko lashaha. Naiskritika lashaha. Lazy. And what are they expert in? Expert in insulting others. And where does the insult begin? With the personality of Godhead. So they're expert in insulting the personality of Godhead. Maybe by scientific acumen, maybe by scholarly theories, maybe by Mayavad, maybe by this, maybe by that. But one way or another way, they develop a specialty in criticizing the personality of Godhead, criticizing devotional service and devotees. Well, how much happiness can there be in that? And it's certainly not eternal happiness, that's for sure. Happiness in the mode of ignorance.
Saraswati Mata comments, Lord Shiva has founded a bona fide Vaishnava Sampradaya to better his followers to follow those teachings. And Yovanananda asks, if we have genuine Mayavadis still who follow their teachings to the letter,
there are some, what would you say, serious traditional hardcore Mayavadis still. But interestingly, they tend to be the more deferential to Krishna than the hardcore material scientists and that school of philosophers. At least they have some sort of deference, although ultimately they may think that everything is impersonal. Still, they have some, at least, regard or some. At least they'll speak respectfully, except for Sadananda Yogendra here. But in general, some respect they'll give, so they can make progress on that account. When I was on Padayatra in 1985-86, we visited Kanchipuram, which is one of the 4 seats established by Acharya. And we went to have darshan of the Shankaracharya of Kanchipuram. And he was quite a respected person at that time. I think his successor was a very different kind of person. But this elderly Shankaracharya, very respected person, very renounced. And effulgent, actually, you could see he was the real thing. And so we went there and he asked us to do kirtan. So we did. And then Lokanath Maharaj asked for his blessings for the Padayatra. And the Shankaracharya said, I believe it was in Hindi, anyway, he said that I wish that Krishna Nam shine all over the world.
Tulsi Priya has a comment. The Darwinists say things like, the emergence of the concept of God offered an evolutionary advantage, which we've presumably evolved out of.
Yeah, the same thing, how to offend God, somehow get God out of the picture. Prabhupada quoted a Bengali proverb, Shakuni, Shap Guru Morena.
Shakuni Shape.
Shakuni Shoper Guru Morena. The vulture is cursing the cow to die, because the vulture lives by getting some dead carcass. So for days together, he's hungry, he's not getting anything. He sees a cow below, so he's cursing the cow, you die. But Prabhupada, does it mean that because the Shakuni is cursing, then the cow has to die? But so these people are going on, the Darwinists, the Mayavadis, so many kinds of speculators, skeptics, that there's no God. So they're cursing the cow to die. And of course, we have a Western expression also, while the cat's away, the rats will play. So that's their idea. And if there's no God, then we're the guys. We can enjoy. While the cat's away, the rats will play. So Prabhupada makes that point, that they say the world's a dream, but they're very expert in trying to enjoy the dream. Shall we continue?
Yes, I was going to ask if Panchatattva Prabhu is able to continue reading our purport.
If there are any questions here?
Yes, of course. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his discourses with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, said, Jiver Nishtar Lagi Sutra Kale Vyas Mayavadi Bhashya Sunile Hoya Sarvanash. Caitanya-caritamrta Madhya-lila, chapter 6, text 169. Vyasadeva composed the Vedanta Sutra to deliver the conditioned souls from this material world. But Sankaracharya, by presenting the Vedanta Sutra in his own way, has clearly done a great disservice to human society. For one who follows his Mayavad philosophy is doomed. In the Vedanta Sutra, devotional service is clearly indicated, but the Mayavadi philosophers refuse to accept the spiritual body of the Supreme Absolute Person and refuse to accept that the living entity has an individual existence separate from that of the Supreme Lord. Thus, they have created atheistic havoc all over the world, for such a conclusion is against the very nature of the transcendental process of pure devotional service. The Mayavadi philosophers' unrealizable ambition to become one with the Supreme through denying the existence of the personality of Godhead results in a most calamitous misrepresentation of spiritual knowledge, and one who follows this philosophy is doomed to remain perpetually in this material world. Therefore, the Mayavadis are called Avishuddha Buddhayaha, or unclean in knowledge. Because they are unclean in knowledge, all their austerities and penances end in frustration. Thus, although they may be honored at first as very learned scholars, ultimately they descend to physical activities of politics, social work, etc. Instead of becoming one with the Supreme Lord, they again become one with these material activities. This is explained in Srimad-Bhagavatam 10th canto, 2nd chapter, 32nd verse. Aruya kritrena parang padang tata patantyadho nadrita yushmad angrayaha. In actuality, the Mayavadi philosophers very strictly follow the austerities and penances of spiritual life, and in this way are elevated to the impersonal Brahman platform. But due to their negligence of the lotus feet of the Lord, they again fall down to material existence. So, Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada's explaining that Mayavadi, actually it's explained in Srimad-Bhagavatam, that the path of this kind of Avashuddha Buddhya knowledge is fraught with frustration. And although there may be some progress to the impersonal Brahman state of realization, because their consciousness is impure, they have to ultimately come down again. It's not successful. In fact, in this verse that is referenced by Srila Prabhupada, there's a nice, the translation is very nice in the 10th canto. It starts off with a parenthetical. Someone may say that aside from devotees who always seek shelter at the Lord's lotus feet, there are those who are not devotees, but who have accepted different processes for attaining salvation. What happens to them? In answer to this question, Lord Brahma and the other demigods said, O lotus-eyed Lord, although non-devotees who accept severe austerities and penances to achieve the highest position may think themselves liberated, their intelligence is impure. They fall down from their position of imagined superiority because they have no regard for your lotus feet. And Srila Prabhupada has glossed that verse right here in his conclusion, in a brief but pointed answer to this philosophy presented by Sadananda Yogindra, and indeed all of the Mayavadis. Hare Krishna.
There's a line here. Mayavadi philosophers, unrealizable to become one with the Supreme through denying the existence, reality of Godhead, results in the most calamitous mystery of spiritual knowledge. And one who follows this philosophy to remain perpetually in this material world.
Looks like maybe we've just lost Maharaj for the moment. Hopefully he'll be able to get back on soon.
I like that this verse appears in prayers by the demigods for Lord Krishna in the womb, and that has this introduction that's been inserted to explain that Lord Brahma and all the demigods are saying thus, and for what reason. That it is the concerted position of the demigods and Lord Brahma that this is the case in terms of this impersonal, taking this impersonal position, this Mayavadi position, that it's ultimately a fruitless endeavor, and that they have to fall down again because of impure intelligence.
Maharaj, if you're back with us, we'd love to hear from you again on that sentence you were speaking.
Well, becoming one with the Supreme, so they have an unrealizable ambition. They're trying for something that can't be achieved. Please. If you don't know how to, give it to Prabhu. He knows how to turn it on silent mode. Excuse me?
He's not able to make it silent, maybe.
Yeah, show him how to do it. Anyone who doesn't know how to implement silent mode should leave their phone home and not bring it to the Bhagavatam class. It's just negligent. A devotee is expert. A devotee should at least have that level of expertise to know how to use silent mode. Were you able to fix it up? Come on in. Now you're welcome back. Your phone was not welcome. You're welcome.
Sorry.
So it results in calamitous misrepresentation. It's not only calamity for the person who believes it, but then he creates further calamity for others by misrepresenting the nature of the absolute truth. And the result is, this is the greatest calamity, that one has to go on in the material world. Avishuddha Buddha. So there's no end to speaking about this, because Prabhupada made it his target. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Deshatar Paschatya Deshatar. Why was he so on it about this point? He would grant no mercy to the Mayavadi position, always bashing and slashing. because this is the greatest calamity. And it's misrepresented as being spiritual truth. You find this all over India, all over the world, that this idea that I'm God, you're God, we're all God. God has no form, God has no quality. It's everywhere, creating calamity. And so Prabhupada, personally took on the mission of just smashing them at every opportunity. I told the story before here, I think. I was in Boston one time. Prabhupada had a major engagement at an important college, and many people attended. And then in the lobby outside the lecture hall, we had our books and various propaganda. So after Prabhupada's lecture ended, we were manning the tables and talking with people, the students and so on. And this big ripple went throughout, just started going throughout the lobby, when something happens, how there's a big wave created, this big wave. And I didn't know what had happened. But later I found out that Prabhupada had come out of the lecture hall. He was talking with some professor, Indian professor, and the professor was arguing on and on, Mayavad, Mayavad, Mayavad. Whatever Prabhupada would say, he would more Mayavad. Everything is one, everything is one. So finally Prabhupada took him by the shirt and said, if everything is one, then why don't you wear a cotton ball instead of a shirt? The cotton ball is the raw cotton. Why don't you wear a cotton ball instead of a shirt if everything is one? Okay.
We have a comment from Saraswati Mataji. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy is absolutely unlimited, as he even delivered these offensive Mayavadis. He indiscriminately bestowed the greatest mercy to everyone. And Tulsi Priya has a hand up. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Krishna. I have a question for Maharaj. In the past, I don't know, I guess maybe 20 years, I've heard, maybe even longer than that, I've heard more and more about what they call transhumanism. And it's basically the idea that, because of as technology advances, human beings can sort of upgrade themselves via technology and become more than human or something beyond human. And I stumbled on a description of a movie that was actually called Transcendence. And because it was called Transcendence, I looked it up. And it was about a man who was working on something with artificial intelligence. And in the middle of it, he died. And they were able to upload his intelligence to a computer. And that's as far as I got because it was so ridiculous. But I was just wondering if a concept like this, if it's some sort of variety of Mayavadism. And also, I'm sorry if this is a really stupid question, but is it possible for consciousness to inhabit a machine such as a ghost inhabits a house? Is there any possible way in the Vedic conception that a consciousness can be part of a computer or something like that?
So there are two things there. The ghost and machine, and the idea of transhumanism, by which through technological means we become more than human. Well, from what we've seen, by technological means, they become less than human.
Mm-hmm.
They become less than human. What is that? Color sattvahara pumna. They just deteriorate all their own finer qualities, and they become technologically expert in cruelty, in destruction, in exploitation, in the profit of a small few over multitudes of others. And they call this advancement of human civilization. People can spend their time absorbed in games on computers, absorbed in useless nothing. And this is the advancement of human life. It's foolishness. Is it Mayavad? It's just foolishness. So in that sense, it's in the Mayavad family. They're fools. They're fools. Mayavadis are condemned as foolish. The materialists are condemned as foolish. Everyone who's Abhijananti Mamuta, who's decrying Krishna, they're all categorized in Bhagavad Gita as foolish. In that sense, they're one. Guru Garanga Prabhu pointed out, sent me a note that he'd seen a comment somewhere that thanks to freedom of speech, we can now tell who the fools are. As for machine, this is, of course, is called hard AI in the technology world. Hard AI. Soft AI is, we can get program computers to use their logic to do this and that. That we know, and we're seeing that. They have all these AI-assisted methods of doing things. All right. But hard AI is the idea that by artificial intelligence, that by computer technology, we can essentially create consciousness. We just have to see what it is, and we can duplicate it the way the Chinese, anything that manufactured anywhere in the world, they can duplicate it. They're expert. So we can duplicate consciousness also. It's just a question of technological expertise. This was the proposition. That proposition has suffered a lot because of what one philosopher, David Chalmers, called the hard problem of consciousness. The hard problem of consciousness is what's sometimes called qualia, which means experience, basically. I can program a computer to, I put a little light sensor, and this is Sadhguru Prabhu's example, and I hook it up to a computer, and I hook the computer up to a printer, and then when there's a red light, the computer can send to the printer a message, I see a red light. So there you are. The computer has replicated human perception and human communication. But the problem, the hard problem is, does the computer experience anything? We know what it's like to see a red light or to be hungry, for example. There's an experience of being hungry. You could program a computer to say, I'm hungry. But the experience is something else again. So this is the hard problem, that consciousness itself is not duplicated. And they haven't been able to duplicate it. And there's so many. And Tulsi Priya says, my question is more, could a jiva somehow inhabit a machine and function with it? Yeah, we're doing that already. Could we inhabit a machine and function within its parameters? That's what we're doing. This body is a machine, yatra tani maya, and we're living within its parameters. And then the other machines. So we can live in cars that some people live in, what do they call caravans, motorhomes, they say. They live in machines. And then they're limited, they can go this many miles in a day or whatever it is. The machines can live within other machines. In theory, a jiva could be within a silicon machine or something, but Krishna doesn't seem to have arranged it that way. But even these machines, we mistake the machine for the person within the machine. And if somehow a jiva could live within a machine, they'd mistake the machine for the jiva, that machine for the jiva. But that's what's going on now. We're living within a machine and functioning in its limited parameters, although we're not the machine.
Supriya says, thank you, Maharaj. And just going back to Panchatattva Prabhu asks, in a sense, could it be said that Lord Shiva provided a detailed philosophy for those who wished to deny the personal form, attributes, and existence of the personality of Godhead, but he also provided a clearly defined target for deconstruction and defeat by the Vaishnavas?
Yeah, I was just discussing that with Praveen Krishna yesterday, that every philosophy benefits by having a clearly articulated opponent, by having a clearly articulated opponent. Any philosophy, any doctrine, any teaching becomes more clear. Like the way you have sometimes they sell buttons with a background of tin foil, bright foil background. So the button stands out because the background is there. So the Mayavadis provide a good foil for the Vaishnavas. The Vaishnav, the glory of the Vaishnava philosophy become even more clear in contrast to the impersonalism and the confused conclusions of the Mayavadis. Yes.
And Sambadas Prabhu has his hand up. Please go ahead, Prabhu.
Thank you, Maharaj, enlightening us. So many valid points you have made. Especially in India, things are very sensitive in regard to Mayabad. About 8 months back, that was last July, August, one of our social media speaker is famous. He spoke something against Amog Leela Das. He's quite famous. He spoke something about Ramakrishna Mission. So it becomes so viral and it becomes so conflicting. But then somehow we had to downplay a little bit. So what we see, our strategy in India, as Srila Prabhupada told, that instead of confronting, we just preach. But Prabhupada could do it. As I remember, Maharaj will be knowing, Tamak Krishna Maharaj told that while he was coming from Mayapur to Calcutta on the way in Bagan, he said only iron can cut iron. So I'm Bengali and I'm going to finish up this Ramakrishna Mission. It's my aim. So he said, I'm Bengali, so I can only destroy this Ramakrishna Mission policy. So usually in India, we don't confront, but we preach our way. And then slowly we gather their affection. Otherwise, the India also full of many places, as Maharaj mentioned, Kerala, in the South India, some places, and everywhere, Bengal also. There are more, what I felt, my own understanding is that because it's an easygoing process, they can fit in everywhere. And they're like an atheist, as Maharaj mentioned. It's like atheism somewhat. But then as a Vaishnava, we know that Shankaracharya also told Bhaja Govindam Muhammad at the last. So somewhere we have ample proof, somewhere we have to, through as we do in India, but through prasadam, through preaching, and we usually don't utter their name. We just preach, and then we just get them. They may be anything, but they just come, and gradually they change. And also now the latest is that because of Ram temple, it's quite influencing about personal feature of the Lord. And the sensational news is that all the four Sankaracharya, they said they'll not attend the Ram temple opening. So anyway, they have a little faith on this. Over.
Thank you, Sangha Prabhu. For the benefit of those who are not from Vijayawada, Sangha Prabhu is the president of ISKCON Vijayawada. Vishakhapatnam.
Vishakhapatnam.
I just came from Vijayawada. Vishakhapatnam. Bigger than Vijayawada. Of course, this is all being broadcast, so anyone can make a clip of any part of what we say, and that can go viral too. But anyway, there's a story, although it may have been undiplomatic of Moggallila Prabhu. There's a story that in the time of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, we told this a couple of days back. There was some big meeting arranged by the Gaudiya Math, and one brahmachari said at the meeting that Ramakrishna was what was it? Like a crazy priest or something like that. And the whole, this was in Bengal, the whole ballistic, as we say, everyone became a great disturbance. And the whole meeting broke up, and preachers were all upset because they tried to cultivate these people, and now everything was ruined. So it was reported to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur that this brahmachari had said that. He said, very good. Very good. Now, that aside, Prabhupada, as Sambha Prabhu rightly said, that Prabhupada's policy was not to mention their names. His policy was not to mention their names, because then people become upset that you've criticized such and such person, and we thought he was we know that he's a great soul.
Recording in progress.
Can you just turn off your audio, please? Prabhupada quoted the Bengali proverb, if you kill a skunk with your hand gets a bad smell. So Prabhupada said, so we don't kill the skunk with our hand, we kick on its face with boots. But that we don't mention generally. And Prabhupada would so many times say, some rascal has said, I do not wish to mention his name, but some rascal has said. And in this various roundabout ways, it would be very clear who he was talking about, but he wouldn't mention anyone particularly. Or if someone would say, what about such and such? Prabhupada, so what is his philosophy? And then Prabhupada would bash the philosophy. He wouldn't say anything bad about the person, but he'd bash the philosophy. And Prabhupada was unwilling to compromise on that. He might not mention, for the sake of, what would you say, not creating needless antagonism, he might not mention the name of this or that person, but he would never compromise on the philosophy. He never went soft on the Mayavadis. So yes, you're all right, we're all right, everything's all right. He always campaigned vigorously against the impersonal conclusion. And there's a story actually that Giriraj Maharaj visited one prospect for being a life member in Bombay. And the very important man, and Giriraj Maharaj was really wanted to make him a life member. And he met the man at his office or his home, I guess his home. And the man was saying different things, Mayavad, Mayavad, Mayavad. And Giriraj was trying to avoid confrontation. But finally it became too much. Giriraj Maharaj just, put it on the line, where Mayavad stands in terms of Vaishnava point of view. So then the man took Giriraj Maharaj to the next room and showed him his temple room, all Radha Krishna, and said, I was just testing you. And then he became the life member. So Prabhupada appreciated that. And he said that my Guru Maharaj never compromised. I never compromise, and none of my students should ever compromise. And we're out of time. Time finished. We stick pretty closely to our times on this Zoom call because everyone has a schedule. But we do have kirtan at the end. Would someone here like to lead kirtan? The rules are only Hare Krishna mantra, and we go 3 or 5 minutes. Only Hare Krishna mantra, nothing else, nothing else. One tune, no changing, and everyone can join.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Gauravani pracharine nirvishesha sunyavadi pachachya desatarine Gauravani pracharine nirvishesha sunyavadi pachachya desatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Srimad-Bhagavatam Monday Gaura Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Srimad-Bhagavatam Monday Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayādvaita Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada.
Jai. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. His Holiness Jayādvaita Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai, Jai.
Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki Jai.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katha. Thank you, Kendra. Thank you, Vishakapatnam. Thank you, Sambapu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Vishakapatnam Yatra ki Jai.
Hey.